number 1. And then wearing number, where is his name? Weldon Curry, all the way number 11. He's the 2016 and 2018 champion. So those guys are looking to make history as the first, male or female to win 3 LA Marathon titles. But they've got about 5 or 6 guys that can give them a run for their money.
So we're within 30 seconds of beginning this race.
Leading the charge, I think, is Zane Robertson, number 7 out of New Zealand. He's the New Zealand national record holder at 2 hours, 8 minutes and 19 seconds. But he is a phenomenal half marathoner and a 2-time Olympian at 10,000 meters. And he just signed a 5-year contract with ASICS. And so this is an ASICS presented race. He's an ASICS man. That'd be a good storyline for the sponsor, that's for sure.
Dina, are you experiencing butterflies at this point when you?
That there is so many talented men sitting on his shoulders. So this behooves everyone in the race to make it an honest race from the start.
He just says he's been training beautifully through December, January, and February, specifically for this race. He has had no competitions leading up, just pure training. But he injured his left calf after his only marathon of 2019 in Saint-Tropez on a very hard course. It was a 2:18, and he's ready to. It was a 2:14 rather that he ran and broke the course record by over 3.5 minutes. So Lonnie Ruto is, bless his heart, for going out and striking out and see him get this men's race up and cooking.
Masses there following suit, making their way around the parking lot of Dodger Stadium. Dodger Stadium is the 3rd oldest Major League Baseball stadium in the country and the largest by capacity. So quite a treat for runners to have staged there prior to the race and to circle the parking lot before dropping onto Sunset Boulevard.
And for many of these racers, all the training that has gone into this day, this moment, and we talked about this record crowd. Over 27,000.
Our pacers, hey, Owen, look at that.
Hi, everybody. Good morning and welcome to live wire-to-wire coverage of the first annual City of Los Angeles Marathon.
It began in the afterglow of a historic Olympic Games.
But this is like boxing. There's been body blows for the last 5 miles. I don't think either one of these guys have been thinking about the finish line. They're thinking about getting rid of the other guy. This could be the best duel in a marathon that I've sat in front of in my career.
He's coming hard. He's got speed in his legs.
If he has anything left in the tank, he better look back now.
Oh, my goodness. One of the greatest finishes in the history of the Los Angeles Marathon.
And now, in its 35th year, the best is yet to come. From the stadium to the sea, 26.2 miles along the world's best marathon course. From the home of an icon of the sporting world, through neighborhoods that are rich in culture and celebrate the diversity that bonds us all, to the glitz and glamour of Tinseltown, where you can walk among the stars as you chase your dreams. This collection of more than 27,000 dreamers are an eclectic mix of elite athletes and everyday heroes. Their journey began long before a cold morning in Dodger Stadium, and it will not end on the shores of the Pacific. On this day, they will spend the greatest 26.2 miles of their life, remembering what has come before and celebrating with every step the memories that brought them here. The City of Angels invites you to be a part of history. This is the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon, presented by ASICS.
And we'd like to welcome our viewers from around the United States. The race is underway with a record crowd, 27,300 athletes on the course. We take a look back at how things got started just a few minutes ago.
First up went the push rim wheelchairs, then went the hand cycles. Now the elite women took off about 9-10 minutes before the men. Emily Gallen on the left helped take these women out. And there's our men as the national anthem was presented and the colors flown. And now all categories and all 27,000 have begun their 26.2-mile journey. Just got our first men's mile split in 5 minutes and 6 seconds, which is solid. Last year they went out in 5:26, so 20 seconds faster on the men's side than last year. 25 seconds slower through mile 2 for the women than our course record year of 2019.
There you see one of the hand crank wheelchairs making it their way.
That looks like a blast, to be honest.
It does.
The roads are clear.
Yeah, low slung and just cruising.
And this is really a fast course for the wheelchair and hand crank athletes that are out there.
And here we have our elite women. Jane Kibby on the right. She was second in 2017 and 5th the last 2 years. California International Marathon champion out of Sacramento in December 2019. In the lead, Margaret Murayuki, the Honolulu Marathon champion. Former 5th place finisher in the World Cross Country Championships, and our partner here, Dean, has been a medalist in that competition, and it's always a great indicator when you can run well at World Cross. It generally says you're going to be a pretty strong marathon runner.
And Murayuki also has very good track speed. She's a 1,500-meter runner, ran 4:06 on the track in the 1,500 meters, so she has a lot of speed in her legs. She moved up, went through cross country, was part of the gold medalist team in 2010. And the World Championships that year were in Bydgoszcz, Poland. I actually ran in that race 1 week after running the LA Marathon here. So I was able to see Team Kenya on the podium, see her on the podium. She was 6th place overall in that race. But the two women that I have my eye on are Jane Kibby and Margaret Murayuki. Their personal bests are very well matched. And if we can get a fight to the finish down Ocean Avenue out of the two of them, we will have some great racing to witness.
The only question is Jane Kibby's run 13 career marathons, is more of a journeyman. Her 2:29:31 at Calendar International was a personal best, and she's run 2:30, 2:31, and now at 2:29. Murayuki has only run one. That's a 2:31 in Honolulu, which is hot, hilly, and humid, and so it's not a fast course, but her track credentials and her CV indicate that she could be a low 220s marathoner, if not faster, whereas Kibby is pretty much all out at 2:29. So if Murayuki is in shape and ready to roll, she looked at the course record splits from Askala Marachi from Ethiopia last year. The course record was set at 2 hours, 24 minutes, and 12 seconds. She looked at that split chart and said, yeah, maybe I can do that. So she's not intimidated by the speed that's been presented on this course before.
Which is a good sign, because they also didn't go out at a very fast pace. So in my mind, someone with a lot of confidence coming into this race can just tackle it any which way you throw it at them. You can start off blistering fast. There you see them going into Chinatown, the men's leaders right now. This is a culturally diverse tour of Los Angeles. They first enter Chinatown, then go through Thai Town, Little Tokyo. Ruto's still in the lead here in the blue singlet, bright orange shoes.
I mean, it's a deep, big pack, but they're not shoulder to shoulder to shoulder, which means that Ruto has the accelerator down somewhat, and it's a good, honest pace on the men's side. If it wasn't like that, you would have the pack would be strung more across the road. So when it's lined up more in single file, that tells you that somebody's actually running.
Yeah, Ruto, he wanted to come out fast. He was very aggressive at the beginning, and he is pushing the pace. The 2020 Los Angeles Marathon, presented by ASICS, David Pingalore, is at Dodger Stadium with the CEO of ASICS America. Good morning, Ping.
Good morning. Here with Kadama, as you just mentioned, and we're like in the breakdown lane over here, aren't we, a little bit?
Very much, very exciting.
This is pretty cool, isn't it?
Incredible runners, and very happy to see this one.
And ASICS is obviously the presenting sponsor. Got to be very proud of this moment with a record number of entries of over 27,000.
Exactly. So we are really happy to support the LA Marathon. And we appreciate the city and the Conquer, everybody, some volunteers to support this race. Yep.
Now, we also should mention, you know, these running shoes right here. Look at these are beautiful. Commemorative edition. I love them. They're very comfortable, and you know, people can you go actually buy these in the stores, right?
Exactly.
And online.
Yeah, so online and our stores and our partner stores. Yeah, we want to enjoy our people. Yep.
Very exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I mean, this is pretty good stuff. All right. The CEO of North America from ASICS right there, Kadama, he's excited. Everyone's excited out here. And I'll see everybody at the finish line over there in Santa Monica, Darren.
Thank you very much, Ping, as we take a look at the three elite athlete races that are taking place within this 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS. We were talking about the ASICS. We're actually wearing them to broadcast this morning. Very comfortable, and it looks like they put together a good product. A lot of runners love running in these.
Kodama-san is a beloved CEO at the ASICS brand, and I'm not sure he's going to be holding the finish line tape, so I'm not sure how he's going to get to Santa Monica faster than these runners are racing. But just a fantastic brand. It has actually been founded after World War II to boost morale in war-torn Japan. The name ASICS is a Latin acronym, Anima Sana Incorpore Sano, or a sound mind in a sound body. And it would behoove all 27,000 of these runners to be mentally and physically prepared for this undertaking today.
Well, the wave of athletes making their way out of Dodger Stadium onto the streets of Los Angeles. And the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS is now fully underway. Our coverage continues in just a moment.
When my body is in sync with my mind, that's when magic happens. When every muscle in my body is screaming at me to stop, it's my mind that keeps me going.
Today, we stand before a historic event. No words can describe this. Earth is here, waiting to be reached. Turkish Airlines.
Barno, our two-time champion, including our defending champion in the orange top. Untucked today. We have a number of tucked and some untucked in the dress code. Lonnie Ruto on the right, a two-time second-place finisher here in Los Angeles from several years ago. And they are up and running. The men went through 2 miles in 9 minutes and 53 seconds off of 4:47. Second mile, you could tell that was one of those downhill miles. And I look at my 2011 course record split charts, and they were at 9:50, so they're right at course record pace at 2 miles. We've just been handed the card, 14:50 at 3 miles, a 4:57 mile. So the men are up and running, that's for sure, Dina.
Yeah, they really got a great start thanks to Rudo. So they're on a great pace right now, and you could already see it stringing out. Zane Robertson is in the back there. Another favorite coming into this race. He's actually in it to win it, but he could either be tucking behind to save energy or falling off at this pace.
And here's on the left of the screen, we can see our three women. That's Yuki, the Honolulu champion, on the inside in the dark blue. That's Almes Negedi from Ethiopia. She was second at the Guangzhou Marathon in 2018 with a personal best of 2 hours 30 and 33 seconds. And then Jane Kibby, the Cal International champion, in third place in the light blue crop top. And she is living in Auburn, California for the last 10 years. Hasn't been home to Kenya since 2017.
Right. She does have a daughter, a single mom raising a daughter, and uses her prize money earnings to send money back to her parents to build them a home off the grid, self-sustainable. So it's so wonderful on the whole 27,000 strong out there are running with purpose. You have the legacy runners. You have Students Run LA, where 95% of those kids that take part of that program go on to graduate high school and also go to college. So stunning. Right here in the women's race, we have our podium so early on established. It was early on that Marina Gazine fell off and made room for Almes Negedi from Ethiopia.
And the question is, will they stay together like this all the way and run together and then decide the issue later in the race? Or is somebody like Yuki's the class of this threesome right here? And the question is, does she want to go out there and try to run a fast time in today's race, or just try to win it?
You know, let me ask you, as you look at just the gait, the pacing, does one of the runners look fresher to you? Does one have a little better bounce to your eye?
I think at this point in the race and at the pace that they're running, it's about a 2 hour, 40-minute projected finish time that all three of them look comfortable, as they should. I'm going to look later on in the race to make sure they're getting their fluids. This is an energy game out there, so calorie intake early is really critical.
Yeah, it's a fuel management game, like a long distance like the Indy 500. It's not how fast you can go, it's how much fuel you've got at the end to go fast when it's necessary. But what's interesting is we take a look at the wheels on the left is you can see Negedi tripping over Kibby, which tells you they're really running slow for them right now. So it's two Kenyans and one Ethiopian, and look how tight the Ethiopian's form is on top. They're going slightly up a hill, but look at how tight her arm carriage is, and that's a very distinctive difference between the Ethiopians and the Kenyans. The Kenyans look like that loping running style. I mean, more loosey-goosey, whereas the Ethiopian's very tight, very compact, very efficient form, so that's good fuel management.
It's an amazing nuance, Tony, that you could look at that.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But you know, when you're clipping heels like that, in my mind, if I was out there running with these women, I would say, we've got a whole road here. What are you doing running up onto my heels? So I think getting too close, there's no wind out there this morning, so there's no need to draft. It's just, again, an energy management thing. Maybe they're just trying to feed off each other's positive energy.
That's Rafa Bateo in the red top, tucked in between our two. These are the Chase Packers from, I think, Hermit Garrick, I believe, is our leader in the pack. There's Rafa. He's trying to encourage his mates. He's been second 3 times on this course, and he's in really fine form right now. And he's trying to encourage one another. The wheelchairs more than the runners because of the nature of their position, the mass they're carrying, and the wind. It's much more, drafting is much more important. It's a huge advantage to be tucked in behind, and so the wheelchairs have a tendency to share the lead. They share the load so that everyone is doing the same amount of work.
Save a huge percentage of energy by being able to draft off of your competitors.
Well, you know, the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS is also a chance for nonprofit groups to step up and serve their communities in a different way. Our Megan Henderson is at the start line with the president of Goodwill Industries, Megan.
Hello, Darren. Yes, I'm with Patrick McClanahan, President and CEO of Goodwill Southern California. And you guys have such a big job on Marathon Day.
We are the official gear check partner of the marathon. We collect all of the runners' gear and transport it from here to the finish line. We have 12 big trucks and our crews out here doing a great job. You get police escort to Santa Monica, which our truck drivers wish they always had.
It's so funny you said that because I've seen it before, that escort and all those trucks, and always wondered what was going on. So yeah, huge job. The organization must be tough. Is it tough or you guys have it down?
Oh, it's really remarkable. Everybody's got it down. They're doing a great job. We're also the proud recipient of all of the discarded clothes. And yesterday, an exhibition yesterday, and here we got all kinds of donated shoes and about 3 tons of stuff we'll take, all for a good cause at Goodwill.
And talk a little bit about what you guys do kind of throughout the year, because you do such exceptional work.
Yeah, thank you. Most people know us for our stores and for our donations. Oftentimes I ask people what they know about Goodwill, and they say, well, I clean out my closet twice a year. But it's all about transforming lives through the power of work. For the past 104 years here in Los Angeles, through our stores, through our donation centers, we put people to work, 3,200 employees, and the proceeds help support our career workforce development, 250 talented people who provide counseling, training, job placement, job coaching to tens of thousands of people a year. And they focus on people with barriers to employment, veterans, people coming out of prison, at-risk youth, people with disabilities, and people who are homeless.
Well, it is fantastic, and thank you for all the work you do throughout the year and on Marathon Day.
Being out here.
Have fun today. All right, Darren, send it back to you in studio.
All right, thank you very much. We are glad you are spending your morning with us on the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS. More race coverage after the break.
Hi, I'm Kerrigan.
And I'm Kaylee.
And we're the founders of Sagely Naturals. Sagely Naturals is a CBD wellness brand that provides people with an approachable way to access the benefits of cannabis without the psychoactive effects. Kaylee and I wanted to empower people to take back control of their well-being and get people back to doing what they love most.
We source CBD from US-grown hemp to ensure there are no trace amounts of THC in our products. To keep with this plant-based philosophy, we incorporate this hemp into clean and natural products that are free from parabens, sulfates, artificial colors, dyes, and fragrances.
Sagely Naturals, CBD wellness products that help you feel your best, naturally.
Marathon presented by ASICS. You take a look at the 3 elite races that are taking place within this race. Pretty competitive for the elite men and women.
Not so much for the wheelchairs. We believe that's Herman Garrett, 30 out of Utica, New York, who's got a 1 hour, 32 minute, 24-second personal best from last year's Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. 2-time Twin Cities Marathon champion, 2-time Miami Marathon champion, originally from Bosnia. And he's got himself a lead off a 3-man pack in chase form. 3 women lead the way, including the Honolulu Marathon champion, Cal International champion, and an Ethiopian woman. And then the big pack of men who, passing 4 miles, were 6 seconds under course record pace. The course record, which is getting a little ripe, set by Marcus Giannetti from Ethiopia back in 2011 at 2:06:35. And now you can see they made that turn and they're going up the hill. That means they're heading toward probably the
Taiko drummers.
Up at the Disney Concert Hall. This is the steepest hill on the course. You can see, if you can see it on television, you know it's a steep course. Women just passed 6 miles rather, in 30 more minutes and 53 seconds. It was a 5:18 mile. It was by far their fastest
5:18 mile, definitely.
That was a downhill mile. You can
downhill
tell
mile,
the role of
but
nature.
the discrepancies between their miles has been quite big. I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that physiologically the most efficient way for any one of these runners to perform is at an even pace. So to see the pace fluctuating even with the hills involved seems a little erratic.
You know, I just don't know if just by the eyeball test, it looks like they're making a different effort. Here's a young man doing his thing on the right of the course, which I probably shouldn't have
Keep your eyes on Ruto in the lead, Tony.
Sorry, that was like Caleb Horton there.
We're back at Dodger Stadium right here as we are clearing the start line.
And look at the costumes.
Yeah. Well, we talk about this every year. There is just such wonderful personality here in Los Angeles as there's still people making their way out of the start gate here at Dodger Stadium.
Our partners at Goodwill have their work cut out for them at the start line as runners discarded their clothing. Over 3,000 pounds of clothing donated to Goodwill this morning.
That's wonderful.
And there'll be a lot left after this. Here's our women's lead pack. Yuki from Kenya, 33 years of age, lives in Nairobi. Her husband is her coach, Kibby. Again, Auburn, California-based Kenyan, California International Champion. And the Ethiopian, wearing number 6 in the pink, number 56, Almez Mcgegi. She's 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 33 seconds. That was her PB 2 years ago.
I'll note that in the last mile mark, they were more than a minute off of the course record. So no course record for the women in sight today. But right now we see Yuki pushing the pace a little bit, trying to string out these women. The podium probably belongs to these 3, but the winner is what they're all chasing.
You can see the downward cant of the street right now, so they're going back downhill. These early miles were the uphills and the downhills, and it rolls, but once they get around 6 or 7 miles, then it just deadens out when you go through Hollywood, West Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and through Brentwood and Santa Monica. And you're just looking for your rhythm right now. Find that pace which feels most comfortable to you.
It is smart to take these early miles cautiously. So with the men's pack as big as it is and running as fast as they are, we're going to see a lot of carnage in the later miles of this race.
And here's our wheelchairs going past the 13-mile mark, coming up on the half marathon split. And there's Garrick in front with the 3-man pack. And once again, the difference on television is a lot closer than it is on the 2 dimensions of the television screen, make it seem closer than it really is. But it's very much the advantage of the 3-man pack working together to run down the single runner, athlete in front, just like you see it on the Tour de France. The peloton almost always catches the breakaways.
Absolutely.
Almost always.
You could see a little fatigue in him as he's resting his arms between pushes. That was a pretty good climb that he just came up, and he knows that the pressure is on from behind.
Hasn't taken a look back, so he's just keeping eyes forward, trying to keep his chair straight and on a roll. Islani Ruto, once again, high, a beautiful form. You know, straight back, eyes up. Longat in second place. Weldon Karui, a former 2-time champion, in third. All those guys, all 3 of our top men right now on the right of the screen have all had a good experience on this LA course.
Dina, when you're in a line like that, as you look at the women elite, do you prefer to be in the front or the rear, the middle?
The women just now passing mile 7 as we see the mile mark. I like to be a leader. I think being able to be the driver of a pack is really important. The exception would be on a windy day to slip in and waste as little energy as possible. But I like to define myself as a leader from early on. In saying that, I don't like to have anyone on my heels. So I think if it were a pack, I would like to let somebody else work and put in the energy, but they are stride for stride, almost in unison perfectly as they run single file down the road.
All right, we'll take a break in our coverage. You're watching the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS. We will return in just a minute.
Fatigue is heavy and relentless, but when my body is in sync with my mind, that's when magic happens. When every muscle in my body is screaming at me to stop, it's my mind that keeps me going. We welcome you back as you take a look at downtown Los Angeles on a beautiful Sunday. A little chill, perfect day to run.
Perfect, right. You want to be a little bit chilled if you're standing on the side of the course, because as you're running like a car at speed, it can overheat. And if there's no place for the heat to dissipate. And right now, Dina, at 51 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the way it is in Los Angeles and all the cities and towns along the way, heading to Santa Monica. It's a perfect day to let it go if you really want to do it.
The men seem to be doing that. The women have actually picked up their pace. They're now at a 2-hour, 32-minute projected finishing time. Their last mile was 5:36, so they're picking up the pace. We are being driven by Margaret Murayuki from Kenya, who is the Honolulu Marathon Champion from 2019, a 1,500-meter specialist, a cross-country phenom. She's won iconic road races in this country, from Beach to Beacon in 2012. That race is put on by the great Joan Benoit Samuelson, who claimed the first ever, since it's International Women's Day, we should note that this race itself was born out of the success of the 1984 Olympics, and in the 1984 Olympics was the first ever contested women's Olympic marathon claimed by America's Joan Benoit Samuelson. She won over the hearts and minds of America that day and really paved the way for the women running today.
And very much she was the inspiration for the city fathers to say, you know, there had been marathons in the Los Angeles area, but it had never been a big one. And they say, put bids out, is what it was. And Bill Burke and Marie Patrick got the bid, and they put on that first marathon in 1986 with 10,700 starters, making it the biggest inaugural marathon in history at that particular time, and it's been a success ever since.
And the rest is history, as they say, as we're in the 35th running of this event. Women now crossing mile 8.
And Yuki has got her foot not all the way down, but she's pressing these other athletes just a little bit. They're running her race right now, as we say in the game.
Absolutely, and this is a similar style that Jane Kibby uses in her road racing tactics. She runs as hard as she needs to run to perform well in the race. Sometimes she gets out kicked, and sometimes she can really pull it off for the win.
But Yuki is doing the leading. All three of the women, slight of nature, slight in form, as you can see. But the Ethiopian, look at those arms. I mean, it's almost like a praying mantis, almost like, you know, very little sway, very little elbow back. And it's like every drop of fuel that you can save, and I know the Ethiopians work on that very hard. And also look at the knee lift difference. Yuki is still becoming a marathon runner, and the more miles you run in training, it has a tendency to just tighten your form up, as opposed to track runners where you want to lift and extend.
So you're making the differentiation between third place Almez Nageti's form and the two Kenyans right in front of her.
Tony, I'm wondering if you're surprised at how big the men's pack is.
No. This is Matt Turnbull is the elite athlete recruiter. He's the matchmaker, like they say in boxing. And Matt put a good field together for women too. It's just these circumstances and that circumstance eliminated some of those women. But the men, they all came, and they're all here, and they're all fit, and they're all ready to run. And they've realized that people who have gone on to great things after winning the Los Angeles Marathon, not that it's not a great title in and of itself, it is. And so they know that if they win here in Los Angeles, that the World Marathon Majors now loom ahead, and all these guys want an opportunity. That's where the real big money is.
Speaking of opportunity, I think we should take this time to talk about Zane Robertson from New Zealand. He really has a wild story that brought him.
Yeah, he's a row 3, tall guy, sandy hair.
Well, we've got reporters fanned across the race course, all tasked with bringing us the flavor and the pageantry of this great race and this great city. Right now, let's head to Little Tokyo to check in with Christina Pascucci. Christina.
You guys, this is a dream come true. We are in the shadow of the Walt Disney Concert Hall with the Koshi Taiko drummers. This is Brett. Let's walk out of the way so we can show their magic. But when I ran this marathon about 4 years ago, this was what kept me going up this hill. This is a tough hill to get up, and this is really giving them the extra oomph they need to make it.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, we love being here for that exact reason, because we like to kind of give rhythm and give like power to the people coming up the hill, because it's really it really is a slog for everybody going up.
And your backstory is so interesting. You lived in Japan to teach English after college, and that's how you got into taiko drumming.
Yeah, that's right. And then after that, actually, it was in a group in Denver for a while. Then I joined the fine people in Koshin Taiko and been coming to Marathon every year ever since.
Why is this the perfect location? I mean, this is one of only 3 Japan towns in the entire country right here near First and Grand.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, it lets us kind of represent like Japanese culture with Japantown, bring that spirit to everyone here running up the hill, and it's you know, it's a big honor to be here.
What's really cool about this group is you have some beginners amongst you who have only been doing this 3 months.
That's right. Every year we take a bunch of members in January, we teach them a song, get them ready, bring them in, and we all play together. So it's real fun for everyone.
And Koshin, the beginning of your name means what?
It means right heart, right spirit, and that's like how we like to play and like what we like to give to everyone on the hill and help them get through the race.
You guys are amazing. Thanks for letting me play along. I'll throw it back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Christina. As we take a look at the men elite runners, Rotu he's pretty much led this thing from the beginning.
Yeah, if there was money for pacing, he'd be the guy. He's leading it with Longat, the little man on his right in the Kenya, with a little bit quicker a turnover. He was second in this race back in 2015, so they know where this course is headed.
Well, in addition to the elite men, the 27,000 runners pushing deeper into the course as the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS continues. Stay with us. We'll return shortly.
Today, we stand before a historic event. No words can describe this. Earth is here, waiting to be reached. Turkish Airlines. As we look at the elite men's field from high above, and it looks like Rotu continues to push the pace here, Tony.
12 men tied together. And just to give you an idea, at the 8-mile mark, they were about 28 seconds behind the course record pace of 2011. But back in 2011, there were 6 men still together in a pack. We've got twice the number of men still in it at the same place where there were only 6 in 2011.
And at mile 8, the men were only 2 minutes and 50 seconds behind the women, so they've made up a lot of ground on them as well.
Women passed 9 miles, 51 minutes, 56 seconds, a 5:51 mile. Again, the men's record was set in 2011. Women's record last year, Askala Marachi from Ethiopia running 2 hours, 24 minutes and 12 seconds. But the men, through Lonnie Ruto, twice second place at this race, have gone out strong. They've taken advantage of the day. You never know, Dina, when you stand at the starting line, whether or not, I mean, you can have the best fitness of your life, and the day just doesn't lend itself to expressing it in a finishing time. But here, these guys came in fit, ready to roll. A lot of these guys with experience on this course, and they realized, wait a minute, this is an ideal day to run. We're not going to let this go.
Right, but haven't we also seen races where you think this is an ideal racing conditions and on a fast and flat course, and it ends up being a tactical race? So it really does come down to letting those first few miles unfold and see really the dynamic of the athletes as they begin racing.
You see the wheelchairs in Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive.
You can't help but have the Pretty Woman soundtrack going through your mind as the athletes go down Rodeo Drive.
We could say little John Longot right there. John Longot is an interesting story because he ran 3 marathons last year, and he got better with each one of them. He started off with a 2:15 in January, but he said he had an Achilles tendon problem. He was second in that race. Then he won the Lens Marathon over in Europe in May in 2 hours 10 minutes. And then in October in Eindhoven, he ran 2:07. So he went from 2:15, 2:10 to 2:07. So he's really showing a lot of improvement. And Adina, when you could take that big of chunks off your PBs in 3 consecutive races, that tells me there's more time available.
Absolutely, and then it really lends itself to feeling that momentum coming into the race. At mile 9, the men were at 5 flat mile pace and only 2 minutes behind the women. So they're closing in fast.
By the way, did you just see they passed Emily Gallen, who is
leading
there on
us
the left of your screen? The men just passed her.
Just to give you an idea, last year, Alicia Barno won his second race in 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 47 seconds. They passed 9 miles last year in 47 minutes and 16 seconds. 47:16 at 9. Today, 44:28, almost 3 minutes faster. We're on a very fast pace in LA on the men's side today.
You know, here is the Stadium to the Sea course. You can see where we are right now.
Yeah, and you know, the 27,000 people, they take in the sights. You ask any one of these leaders, how'd you like the course? What'd you think of the sights? And they said, what sights?
Oh my gosh, that is so funny, because as a professional athlete, I feel very invested in the journey, and I want to know everything about that course before I step on it. Every turn, every sight and draw inspiration from it. That Hollywood sign screams its name at me when I pass it by in Los Feliz.
But so many people just sit there, they're just locked in, they're looking at 10 feet in front of the road, and they're gauging not only how they feel, but they're sensing how their opponents feel. And you're gaining information. I always say there's an enormous amount of unspoken communication within the lead pack. You're trying to read those unspoken signals to see how you're feeling in relation to your competitors.
Right, reading their signals and trying to ignore the ones that are screaming in your legs at any given moment. But really, this race, you get asked so many times, what do you think about when you're running for this long? And a lot of times, it's not much. You're thinking fluids, you're thinking keeping on pace, and you're thinking to run the tangents.
And we're thinking that it's time to take a break. We're going to do that. You're watching the Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS. We will be back in just a moment.
It took millions of steps to get here. But this is the one that matters most.
Marathon presented by ASICS. You're looking at the elite athletes, the wheelchair, the elite women, and the elite men, and competitive in all three.
And number 206, Jose Jimenez, is in the lead. for,
and in the
we
women's
think,
lead pack, we have Margaret Muriuki from Kenya. On her shoulder is now Almaz Ngeti from Ethiopia. And in the rear is Jane Kibby of Kenya, who resides and trains here in California. A well-matched race between these women. They're on a consistent pace and really just enjoying their tour of the streets of Los Angeles right now. Such a well-matched race. We have the 2019 Honolulu Champion. The Ngeti was actually second place in the Chongqing Marathon a couple of years ago with a personal best of 2 hours, 30 minutes. She's been second at Wharf to Wharf here against American Emily Infield a few years back. And in 2015 won the Lanai Marathon in China. So not a lot of recent personal bests out of her, but she does look very comfortable sitting right in the middle.
But it's been Margaret Muriuki who's done all the leading. Oh, I know that stretch of road to Santa Monica Boulevard very well. My mother-in-law used to live just to the left for many, many years. And it's been Muriuki who's done the leading. And some people, Dina, can you talk about, some people enjoy, like you said, enjoy being in front, and other people feel uncomfortable in front and rather just sit, sit, sit.
It is a very specific dynamic that happens in a pack, because you could actually lead from behind, or you can settle in and relax by leading and being able to see the road in front of you, see the tangents, the left and right turns coming up, so that you're running the shortest distance possible. I don't think anybody in the history of the marathon has ever crossed the finish line wishing they had run more miles or a longer distance. They give it everything they can in the 26.2 miles allotted to them.
We're talking about looking at the course. Look at Ngeti in second place, just locked in on the footfalls and the backside of Muriuki. I mean, just unwaveringly, just head cast down, just everything, conserving as much energy as she possibly can.
Yeah, not even real emotion in her face. She looks very relaxed, letting Muriuki do all of the work today.
Now, the question with a form like that then is, and Ethiopians are very famous for sitting and then kicking. They work on their speed much more than the Kenyans do. Kenyans are more strength-based marathon runners, and they try to grind their opponents into the ground. Ethiopians are famous for having not as much volume in their training, but more speed work. But with
kicks.
Yeah, but with a form like that, the question is, can you downshift if the time comes, to drop it 2 gears to be able to explode into a sprint finish, if that would be required?
If we're looking historically, I would say the finishing kick of an Ethiopian would outdo a Kenyan any day, but not in this case, with Muriuki being such a fantastic 1,500-meter runner and the strength of a cross-country gold medalist. And so, to me, she's the one with the most speed. Not that that matters much after the fatigue of leading a race for more than 26 miles.
Another thing that both Kenyans have are those long compression socks. Can you go into that a little bit? That's a relatively new element in the marathon distance running.
We're all about, we don't have to rely, as distance runners, don't rely on a lot of equipment, but shoes and socks definitely come into play. The compression socks help bring fresh blood back to your heart, so you can circulate and really get rid of lactic acid and some of the free radicals in your bloodstream quicker.
Just kind of protects the muscles a little bit from all that pounding on these roads. Jose Jimenez Hernandez, 37, out of Costa Rica. Personal best last year in Duluth at Grandma's Marathon, 1 hour 30:36, a 2016 Para-Olympian. He has not secured a spot on the team as of yet. He just needs a good time. He might get it right here today, but he's been a medalist in the Central American Games, and he's looking to improve on his marathon record for his country. He's 7 seconds shy of that, but he's on a very good course where that's possible, and now he has gone to the front. You just saw him take a look over his or underneath his arm, as the wheelchair athletes do, to see what kind of a gap he's got on his competitors, and it is growing with each push on those rims.
It is a healthy lead, I would say, by now, because as you mentioned earlier, Tony, that our perspective on the television is appears to be a little bit closer. But at mile 18, he made his move, and he seems to be gaining distance on his competitors.
And I have to admit, 2:05 is not listed on my start sheet. We went from 2:04 to 2:06, so we don't know who that 2:05 athlete is. This is Rafa Bateo in 3rd place in the red top. He's got the Spanish colors on his left arm sleeve. and he is in third place. He's been on the podium 3 times in second position, and it looks like he's not going to get to the top step today unless things radically change, but it looks like he's well positioned for another podium finish.
You look at the power that is generated by those arms, but it's not only the arms. It seems like you have to have the abdominal strength as well.
Well, there's the difference between different athletes and their abilities. The higher the injury, the less muscle you have. So the lower the injury, below, if you bend the human body and break it, I think it breaks at T7.
And it looks like the men have just passed the elite women. So.
Despite the women actually picking up the pace, they're now on a projected finish of about 2:31, whereas in the beginning stages of the race, it was more of like a 2:40. But the men have definitely made this an honest race from the very beginning.
I mean, they just ran another, 4:52 and 4:49 the last 10th and 11 miles. So Elani Ruto, wherever he finishes, he deserves a little bit of check from everyone who finishes this race with a good time, because he's the one that's doing all this work. But on the other side of the street are 3 women going to the aid station,
getting those critical fluids that they'll need in the second half of this race. Our lead cars, thank you to Volvo for providing them so that the leaders could see their times. Women the most spread out now that we've seen them, thanks to that water station.
Yeah, that has a tendency to break things up. It's a pit stop in automobile racing, and it has a tendency to break your rhythm. And oftentimes, and most famously in 2014 at the Boston Marathon at the 8-mile mark, when Meb Keflezighi, he skipped an aid station while everyone else went to get their bottles. That Meb opened up a bit of a gap, and he extended that gap, and they kind of let him go. And by the time they realized he was out there, it was too late to do anything about it. So sometimes people will use an aid station as a tactical advantage to their, and okay, I'm going to take a chance on a good day like this where you might not need all your fluids as much as on a warm day. You might skip it at some point down the line to see if I can maybe get a break.
So we should say that Noon is the sponsor, that the 27,000 runners are getting drinks from today, but the professional athletes get their personal fluid bottles to fill with the drink of their choice. It's something they've practiced with over the months. So to anyone looking to run this race sometime, I would always mention to practice with what the race is providing to get your gut used to being able to consume those calories.
All right, quick break in our coverage. We will continue with the Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS in just a moment.
Fatigue is heavy and relentless, but when my body is in sync with my mind, that's when magic happens. When every muscle in my body is screaming at me to stop, it's my mind that keeps me going.
Today, we stand before a historic event. No words can describe this. Earth is here, waiting to be reached. Turkish Airlines.
It's your thing, do what
Our coverage of the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS, and Rotu continues to lead the pack for the elite men runners.
Yeah, he's just been like a metronome out front, ready to strike. They're all happy, not only with the pace he's setting, but the fact that he's setting the pace and they don't have to use any extra energy. Yeah, essentially, this is like water skiing now. They've just put their tow rope on his boat and they're just surfing behind him.
And we haven't lost a single runner out of this 12-man pack.
No, so they're fit, they're in form, and they've hit a rhythm that they all seem happy with. Here's the aid stations, and look how quickly they grab. Now, see, some guys didn't get it. Now, this is also...
That was a little sloppy for these professionals.
Right. One of the times you're also on a slight upgrade, too, so it should have been a little bit easier since they weren't going quite as fast on that upgrade. But later in the race, what you want to look for is you lose your coordination as you become fatigued. And some guys, they miss bottles. They just, their small coordination is left. Oftentimes, I always look for people when they take just the paper cups of water from the side. If they try to shoot them into the trash can, that means they've got plenty of energy left.
And you know, if you make it, you think, oh, that's a good sign.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You work everything into your favor on race day.
As opposed to, because late in a race, you just drop everything and all you are is a forward motion machine. That's all you've got.
So in a race like this, there's about 50 elite bottles out on the course. Last week at the Olympic Marathon Trials, the Atlanta Track Club offered professional fluids to every single participant. 700 participants got their own professional water bottles. That was 3,000 water bottles out on the course, and it went flawlessly. I had the privilege of being in the women's lead vehicle and was able to see that each woman got their bottle and was able to consume it, and that was a real risk in a race like that, to mess up a water bottle station. So something as a heroic undertaking as that went smoothly in the Olympic trials last weekend, where we named 6 people to our Olympic team. On the men's side, it was Galen Rupp, Jacob Riley, and Abdirahman. Abdi and I made our first Olympic team together in 2000, and so to see him make his 5th Olympic team was so exciting to watch. And on the women's side, Alafine Tuliamuk, Molly Seidel, and Sally Kipyego all made the Olympic team. It was an exciting race.
Yeah, hilly, cold, and chilly.
Yes, windy.
Very windy. So the times were much faster than we thought. Much faster than we thought. So
because the stakes were high and the talent was deep, much like we're seeing on the men's race today.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They had the idea. Everyone thought it was going to be a 2:11 race on the men's side. It was a 2:09 race. But now Lonnie Ruto continues to lead the charge as he had from the minute we stepped out of Dodger Stadium. Lonnie Ruto wearing number 4. 2-time second at the LA Marathon. Last year, he won the San Tropez Marathon in March in a course record 2:14:48, taking almost 4 minutes off that course record. We're just going to come up near that halfway mark. The men are about 1 minute and 20 seconds off the course record, but they're still running in the sub 2:08 range, which is very quick. And because there's 12 guys or so together, Dina, they actually haven't started racing off of this pace. This is the foundation off which the moves will be made. So there's still time to make up on that course record later in this race.
Pretty much everyone feels good at the halfway point. It's getting closer to that 20-mile mark that we'll start to see the tolls that the hills here have taken, and also whether people are running a little outside their fitness zone.
All right, we're halfway through the elite men's race. Quick break as we continue our coverage of the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS.
I'm Kerrigan.
And I'm Kaylee.
And we're the founders of Sagely Naturals. Sagely Naturals is a CBD wellness brand that provides people with an approachable way to access the benefits of cannabis without the psychoactive effects. Kaylee and I wanted to empower people to take back control of their well-being and get people back to doing what they love most.
We source CBD from US-grown hemp to ensure there are no trace amounts of THC in our products. To keep with this plant-based philosophy, we incorporate this hemp into clean and natural products that are free from parabens, sulfates, artificial colors, dyes, and fragrances.
Sagely Naturals, CBD wellness products that help you feel your best, naturally.
It took millions of steps to get here. But this is the one that matters most.
Almez Ngeti from Ethiopia and Margaret Murayuki of Kenya. Murayuki's still the leader, though, still pushing the pace and being the driver of this train.
Yeah, she's on the right in the dark crop top. The Ethiopian is in the pink top. And she's just dogging her heels. And at some point, that's going to, you see Murayuki giving her a couple looks already. At some point, as one of our lead men goes screaming by, you will see as our splits are along the bottom of the screen. At some point, it'll start getting to Murayuki psychologically. She's not putting any distance on her. She tries.
And you really start to understand the silent language, the silent communication of racing. That look by Murayuki was really an ask to help lead this race, help pace them through these next few miles. She's done all of the work. Even looks like she's putting in a little surge right here. But really, it would be great to have Ngeti do a little brunt of the work here.
You know, I disagree with that, in the sense that it's real simple. Point A to point B, see you there. No style points, no form points, no lap points.
No courtesy.
No courtesy points. Listen, if speed is your thing, why would you give that up to do any leading? If you don't like me on your heels, then drop me. Well, that's the game that's being played right now. Murayuki has dropped Kibby, her fellow Kenyan, who's back in third place. We see her in the distance. But that Ngeti in that tight Ethiopian form is right with her. Now, she's only run a 2-hour and 30-minute marathon, has Ngeti, but she's done it a lot of times. She's 33 years of age. Her best 2 hours, 33 minutes back in March of 2018 at Zhongqing. Dalian Marathon, 2:31. She's a solid 2:30, 2:31 lady. And Murayuki has got credentials that lead you to believe she can be much better than that.
All right, let's check in with Christina Pascucci, who's standing by with a special guest.
I am so excited to introduce you to Bill and Joel, who are two warriors. Thank you guys for stopping for a second here at Mile 4 to chat. Let's start with you, Bill. This is your 10th marathon, yes?
10th LA marathon, 21st total.
Oh my gosh, you were incredible, and you are a cancer survivor. That is why this year is extra special.
Exactly. I'm 6 months post liver transplant to cure my liver cancer. Yeah, so it's amazing.
Being able to do something like this.
Yes, it's a dream come true. None of my medical team thought I'd actually be able to do this, but it was running that actually accelerated my recovery and gave me the opportunity to run this beautiful race. It's my favorite race in the entire world. It's in my backyard, and I'm running with just wonderful friends, all for the Brave Like Gabe Foundation.
Brave Like Gabe! Let's talk about this, Joel. Tell me about what's been happening with you. You're fighting cancer right now.
Yeah, so we found the cancer about 5 years ago, and my wife's an exercise physiologist, so this was just kind of a natural coping mechanism for me. So she's been my coach, and for the New York Marathon this last year, we found Brave Like Gabe, and ever since then, that's been our people. So.
And it's on your lungs, by the way, and you were defying what people might think is possible just by being here fighting also for Brave Like Gabe. Tell us quickly about that.
It means everything. I love these people. I'm home here, so, and I'm so grateful for Phil. He's a good leader here on the course, and I have no words.
Who is Gabe?
Oh, Gabrielle Grunwald. She was a very inspiring runner, and we started following her story about a year ago, and then sadly she passed this summer. And her torch has never gone out, and her husband Justin is such a fighter and an inspiration, and he helps us fight the monsters. And you know, together we try to spread hope. When I'm low, they spread it. When they're low, I try to give what I've got, and it's the best community I've ever seen working hard.
Thank you guys for being here. Go kick some butt. Thank you so much. Brave Like Gabe, guys. Check it out.
Thank you very much, Christina. We are going to take a break and come back with the conclusion of the wheelchair race. You are watching the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS. We're back in a moment.
Fatigue is heavy and relentless, but when my body is in sync with my mind, that's when magic happens. When every muscle in my body is screaming at me to stop, it's my mind that keeps me going.
Marathon presented by ASICS. You take a look at the men and the women elite fields. Women at mile 15 there. Okay.
And it's the same configuration with Margaret Yuki from Kenya going up against Almaz Negedi of Ethiopia, with Negedi's eyes cast right down on those bright lime-colored shoes in front of her, and she's just marking time, marking time. The question is, at some point, is she just holding on to that pace, or is she just sitting on that pace? There's the difference.
Yeah, I think they both look so comfortable at this pace at this point in the race. They're at mile 14 on Sunset Boulevard, making their way to Santa Monica Boulevard, and it's really going to be in the next few miles that we start to see a little more wear and tear on them. Here we are in the wheelchair division. We are packed back up here for the finish.
Yep.
Mile 25.
Mile 25. And
we have a duel, huh?
Jose Jimenez from Costa Rica in the lead, with Rafa Mateo in the red from Spain in second place. He's had that position on the podium in 2013, 2014, and 2016. And he sure would, as they go over the timing bump, he sure would like to get to that top stop. You would like to see him tucked a little bit more right on that backside like you see on NASCAR. That's San Vicente, the beautiful final stretch, where from a runner standpoint, they're going it's not downhill. There's 25, it's a downgrade. And it just, from a running standpoint, perfectly elevates your hips into this perfect, you spin the earth beneath you like on a ribbon. It's just a wonderful feeling of if you got running left in your legs.
It does seem like he's trying to get up on him, but Rafael just keeps putting in these little surges to shake him.
Yeah, because right, you don't, if the guy's right on your backside, that he's in your slipstream, and just like in the auto racing, he'll go by you because he's saving energy by being in your slipstream. And it's hard to break away on the downhills for wheelchair athletes. It's really hard to do. And Rafa's been here in the past. He's making sure that no one's coming up from the backside to ruin his plan. I think he's in a perfect position right now.
Here is their left onto Ocean Avenue. This is a great feeling right here if you're not in the fight for your life.
When they turn onto Ocean, there's a mile to go, essentially. And you know that these guys are, you know, international veterans. I mean, they've been all over the world. They've been running Paralympic Games. And Jose knows that Rafa is in the catbird seat right now.
And another glance underneath his arm. This is going to be a great finish.
Yeah, now he's tucked in right in. Now he's just going to ride him.
Uh-oh, he's going to make his move now.
Is it too soon, though?
If you go in front, or are you just being a nice guy and say, what are you thinking, to hold hands and finish together?
An exchange of smiles,
wonderful?
a fist bump. I love the humanity here on the streets of LA on this marathon morning.
Rafa is such a genuinely well-liked guy by the entire industry and sport. And that's why there's a lot of people who are rooting for him with his 3 second-place finishes in the past. But there's great camaraderie amongst this crowd. And this almost tells me like they're planning on maybe either finishing together. I don't know, because they're not. Neither one's pushing.
Finish.
Well, at what point though? At what point do you? It looks like Rafa's going to make his move now.
Well, neither one is setting the other guy up. Rafa had Jose set up if he just wanted to stay in behind him and not say a word and just using him. But Rafa is like a real sportsman, and he's come up alongside his compatriot, and they're just going together. And there's too much fist bumping. It doesn't look like anyone's going to make a big break unless they say, okay, 100 meters to go, we'll take off.
Well, it's reminiscent of boxing when you come out for that final round and you kind of tap gloves and you say, all right, let's go for it.
Let's see who's got it. They're going to go side by side and then see if they're just going to be no one's taking advantage of it.
Here they go, though. They look like they're pushing a little harder.
But still, just making sure no one's coming up on the backside, and that's not the case. Jose Jimenez, Costa Rica.
Our first winners here coming to the finish line this morning.
Rafa Mateo from Spain.
I think they're going together.
That's the spirit, I think. I think they're going together. So he's going to take a victory hand in hand.
How about that?
And he does cross first. We'll see what the officials do, but the spirit of that day was a tie. What a wonderful way to start the finishing competitions in LA 2020.
But wouldn't you pull for Jose? I mean, 3 second-place finishes. Wouldn't you?
No, Rafa. You mean Rafa? No, exactly. Rafa had 3 second-place finishes, and to me, that just shows what a great sportsman he is. Because he said, you know, I'm in shape. I think I have a shot today at winning this thing, and yet I'm just going to go along with my competitor at the same time. And then in the blue, that's Alfonso Zaragoza from Mexico City in 3rd place. A former Pan American Games medalist back in 2011.
And you know, the class of some of these athletes in moments such as these, it reminds me back at the Boston Marathon when Meb Keflezighi, the winner there, was having an off day, and he ended up grabbing the hand of a woman he was crossing the finish line with and finished together. So there are moments in this sport that, although it seems very intense and individual, we're going to see that unfold in the men's and women's races now, but that we really do care about the bigger picture in this sport.
It's a humbling game, Darren, because you have to put in so many miles and you have to work very hard, and the speed work is painful. And has a tendency to humble you. And so you have generally speaking, I'm not sure if it's chicken or egg, do those kind of people go into the game, or does the game help create that quality that there's a wonderful spirit internationally? And everyone, if you run with someone, you have a greater understanding of what that person is really made of, irrespective of what country they're from or what else they believe politically or religiously. It's a wonderful leveling field for the entire world of sport.
But we have a good battle between Kenya and Ethiopia going on the women's side. Margaret Muriuki of Kenya continues to lead the women's race. She's dressed in black, our leader there. And Elmes Negeti from Ethiopia following closely behind.
I'll tell you right now, Dina, there's no hand holding those two coming to the finish line. That's no Rafa Jose in the women's race, I'm telling you. Now there's a danger of Robertson getting dropped a little bit as we're starting to see that pack one by one by one. There's Michael Chegi in the back there. There's Wilson Chevette, former second place finisher at the Boston Marathon behind Meb that famous year, second at Honolulu last year as well. He's in fourth place right now. So one by one, then there were 10, now there are 4 or 5.
It looks like there's about 6 in that lead pack as they're starting to splinter off. We're going to take a break, continue our coverage of the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS.
Today, we stand before a historic event. No words can describe this. Earth is here, waiting to be reached. Turkish Airlines.
And we welcome you back. Take a look at the men elite field, which is looks like it's down to about 7 now, Tony.
Yes, Lonnie Ruto still leads. And it looks like about John Longot's in there. There's the guy in the white top on the left. He is by Yelen Teshagar. He's Ethiopian. He's 20 years of age. This is his debut marathon. He's a 60-minute half marathon runner. For the last 2 years, he's had the fastest half marathon of any junior, in other words, under 20-year-old in the world. This guy is a killer. He's being coached by one of the best coaches, Teddy Hailu, who's the husband of Mesret Defar, Olympic champion, world record holder, one of the greatest female runners in history. You ran against her many, many times. Teddy's got one of the great training groups in Ethiopia, and this is one of his young stars making his debut here in Los Angeles. This guy could be a world beater, and we're just opening the door for that talent in the marathon today.
You have to be careful of these debutantes, because as we saw in the Olympic Trials Marathon just last weekend, Molly Seidel in her debut marathon there on the streets of Atlanta went on to make her first Olympic team. So the debuts, the pressure is off. They could be the dark horse coming in and have the spotlight off of them and really make a run for it in the end. in both men's and women's sides. Rudo has led from the beginning in the men's field, and on the women's field, Margaret Murayuki has led from the very beginning. That does take its toll on you as the race goes on. It takes more energy to lead than to follow. So we'll see if that really holds true as we get into the later stages of this race. The men look like they're on Rodeo Drive right now.
Right,
my shopping holds true.
Closest to the camera, in the blue with the 3 stripe on the shoes and the lime shoes is Emmanuel Katooni from Kenya, 27 years of age. He's run 3 marathons. He's won 2 of them, both in La Rochelle, France. He's run 2:10 in his debut in 2016, a 2:11 in 2017, and then he won La Rochelle last at Lear in 2:8:22. So this guy is still new to the marathon, but he's won 2 out of 3, and that's a pretty good sign.
Absolutely, and when you start to gain more experience, you really see your times dropping in this event. So it'll be exciting to see how much he has in the tank as we get closer to mile 20. It's coming up. So happy International Women's Day to all you women out there. In our field, our female field out here, it is a battle between Almez Megedi from Ethiopia and Margaret Murayuki from Kenya. They're both about 34 years of age, similar personal bests. They've won recent races, and really it's going to come down to leg speed at the end of this race.
The men have been running some 5-minute miles as of late. Mile 17, a 5:08, and this is a dead flat part of the course, so there's no elevation that's going to create that differential, that slowing mile. They just could be gathering, or Ruto's tired of doing some pushing and no one else wants to take the lead from him. I know, interestingly, Dina, Ngegi is now not directly behind Murayuki. She's on her side, and even something small like that can mean the whole world has changed.
Right, it could just mean that she needs to see the view in front of her with some turns coming up, but thanks to Volvo and our lead vehicles for giving those lead runners their paces for today, their running time from the start line. Some of these runners, it's interesting the dynamic that comes into this race, because some of them train alone and put in the miles alone. Some of them train in hefty training groups where you have record holders and national champions all training together and pushing each other. But just here in LA, they are together and stronger. The running clubs here make you feel such a part of a community to push your physical and mental capacity that you wouldn't normally do alone. The LA Roadrunners are the official training group of the LA Marathon, but they also have Runners High and the Pasadena Pacers, the LA Running Club, LA Leggers. We saw some of their runners being interviewed earlier today. The South Bay Runners Club. So coaches divide these athletes up into their pace groups to support and push their fitness, and in doing so, they're really transforming lives out there, much like they're raising money for charity, and some of these people are raising money to go home to their villages and build schools and hospitals.
Right.
The money really is well spent and stays within communities for the greater good.
Right. Every one of these professional athletes from East Africa has a tendency to be supporting a very large extended family and even a village. And so it's not just them. They buy houses and spend tuition for siblings as well. So it's a wonderful story. It's very much like it's a bootstrap sport over here. If you look at the boxing champions in the 20th century, that mirrors in many ways the immigration patterns to the United States. In many ways, what we're seeing in marathon running is a bootstrap sport. It doesn't cost anything. So many of these athletes start off by running barefoot for years and years and years, and then once they get good enough, they get these contracts with the shoe companies. But because they ran barefoot for so many years, Dina, I think it makes their kinetic chain, you know, the ankle bone's connected to the knee bone, etc. I think they have much stronger feet as the foundation for the rest of their stride.
No doubt about it. That is entirely true. And I also promote switching up your shoes a lot to get that similar feeling, not to get used to any one form or mold of shoe. Get a mix in there so that you're using your muscles a little differently and really creating a good foundation to build off of. It's great for injury prevention.
So the tension continues to build on the women's side. The men on Wilshire through Beverly Hills. We'll take a break, come back to the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon, presented by ACTIVA.
The search to solve our most pressing issues. How to endure, and how to be redeemed. The world is watching California, because California fights back, remembers where we're from, and defies those in our way. Los Angeles Times, the state of what's next.
Of water. We were saying a little bit earlier, late in the race, you start losing your fine coordination, and grabbing cups is one of those signs whether or not fatigue is beginning to creep into the issue. And on the men's side, Zane Robertson from New Zealand, their national record holder, who is hoping to win this race. I do not see him in that men's lead pack, which is down to about 7 or 8 or so, still led by Lonnie Ruto from Kenya, twice runner-up in this race.
Well, we've got reporters throughout the course. Lauren Lister is in Hollywood. Good morning, Lauren.
Hey, we are on Hollywood Boulevard. The Walk of Fame is just one of the things that LA Marathon runners are going to be passing through this morning, already are passing through this morning. Joining me is Ken Bernstein. He's the head of the LA Office of Historic Resources to tell us what are some of the iconic landmarks that runners are going to be passing in this part of the race.
Well, we're in a National Register of Historic Places historic district here, and you see we're at the Walk of Fame, which is iconic. The stars on the sidewalk here, celebrating its 60th anniversary this year. The great historic theaters here in Hollywood, including the Chinese Theater directly across the street, Grauman's Chinese with its famous forecourt, the celebrity handprints and footprints, the El Capitan just down the street here, Disney's flagship theater, and several others, including the Warner Hollywood, the Egyptian Theater, another Grauman's Theater, and the Art Deco Pantages Theater, as well as vintage restaurants like Musso and Frank's and the Pig and Whistle. Musso and Frank's celebrated its 100th anniversary last year. So if runners look up, they're seeing vintage Hollywood here.
And for people that are living all over the world, what makes those so unique? What makes this race and these landmarks so unique?
Well, of course, there's only one Hollywood, and it's important that we preserve and identify these historic places. This is what makes Hollywood Hollywood, what people are looking for. But every neighborhood that you're seeing in the marathon route, what makes the LA Marathon so great, every neighborhood has unique historic and architectural resources. And if people want to explore, if they're not going to run 26.2 miles, but explore, go to our website, Historic Places LA, where we have an inventory of the architectural treasures in every community in Los Angeles.
Ken, thank you so much. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much. And you're looking at the women's elite race. It looks like they're in Century City now.
Yes, Santa Monica Boulevard.
Margaret Murayuki in the lead again, with Negedi from Ethiopia tucked right back in there, not wanting to waste any energy. The Ethiopians are known as a nation of having closing fast races, and so if tradition holds true here, you see her looking down and struggling a little more, actually, Tony. I don't know if it's the uphill a little, but she seems to be losing some ground. It almost looked like Negedi would be clipping at the heels of Murayuki earlier in the race, and now there seems to be a little bit more space.
One of the things we can say about Murayuki is she's comfortable being in this position. She, in her debut marathon in Honolulu last December, she was in a race-long duel with Betsy Saina, a fellow Kenyan who was 5th at the Olympic final in 2016 at 10,000 meters and is a 2:22 marathoner. So a woman with all that experience and all those credentials, Murayuki in her debut battled her the entire way into Kapiolani Park and only won it in the last half mile. But right now, as you were mentioning, that gap is longer than it's ever been.
Absolutely, and this has got to be a confidence booster for Murayuki, who has had great success on the roads in the United States at the lower distances. She's won Beach to Beacon, she's won the Falmouth Road Race, she's won the Big 7-miler 2 years in a row, and here on the streets of LA, it looks like she just may have put her stamp on that podium finish.
Yeah, she was the class of the field, and she led it every step of the way, but now you can tell those arms are going elbows back more, head up. She's striding out. She's literally just turned the screw a little bit tighter, and that was enough to break the steady rhythm of Almaz Negedi.
But look at this that's happening in our split screen, which I love available to our viewers right now, is that the men are about a mile, if not a little more, ahead of the women, but this seems to be a breaking point in the race for both races. Murayuki is trying to claim victory here early, just past mile 18 on a projected 2-hour 30-minute marathon. And look at that. I can't tell who that was that missed their water bottle and had to go back for it. Obviously needing those calories, he made the critical choice to go backwards and grab his
Dennis Churchier. That's Dennis Churchier who did that. But
when
that
you're
shows
desperate for that calorie, then you know that he's hurting right now.
The second at the Twin Cities Marathon last year.
You see that gap he has to make up.
To be willing to lose that ground on a slight upgrade in order to get your bottle shows you how important those fluids are to be able to finish this race. He realized if he just stayed with them and kept contact but didn't have that fuel, it was going to come back and bite him in the backside later in this race. And he had enough sense to get that bottle and hopefully doesn't panic and tries to reel them back in. But it's a crucial time in the race when moves are starting to get serious. You can see that line is just extending in single file now, no side-by-side action. Cheshire, the young Ethiopian on the left. But Ruto, just like Murayuki, just done all the work. Throws his bottle aside with confidence. That was a confident throw of the bottle. Behind him is Emmanuel Katooni. He's a Maasai. There's about 42 tribes in Kenya, you know, and 5 of them produce great runners. Mostly the Kalenjin, the Kikuyu, the Kamba, the Kisi, those kinds of tribes. Maasai, the Maasai warriors, they have mostly like shorter 800-meter, 1,500-meter runners, but every once in a while they'll develop a great marathon runner, and Katooni is one of them.
Tony Revis continues to amaze us and educate us on the warriors of Kenya, who are some of the great runners on earth. We're going to take a break in our coverage. You're watching the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS.
Two new It took millions of steps to get here. But this is the one that matters most.
Oh, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can tell you that it's like you. It's your thing. It's your thing. Do what you want to do.
Not everyone, it's one thing to run from behind, to run a fast time. It's another thing to take the step in front and be a leader. Well, the target is now on your back, and not everyone psychologically, Dina, has the ability to get out there and put their nose in front. I mean, it takes a certain amount of courage.
Courage and confidence. That's extreme confidence, to come into a race knowing you could run it anyway and still pull off a win. Lonnie Ruto has shown that from the very beginning and still looks very relaxed despite having led these men for so many miles.
And he's the biggest man there, broad shoulders, you know, but confident in his form, very
Don't
erect.
you think, Tony, that this is more of a strength runner's race anyway? The people who it's going to favor are the stronger runners, the ones who have a cross-country background, which is why we see Yuki competing so well on the women's side. That because of the hills, the 260 feet of elevation loss, excuse me, that they really do favor the stronger runner.
Yeah, but those last miles on San Vicente, going through beautiful Brentwood with those, you know, the lovely trees on the median strip, and then on the ocean, those are rhythm runners, part of this course. Well, as we said, last year in a 2:11 race, they ran a 29:40 last 10K. I mean, that's 2:06 pace.
That's some stunning racing there, and how great as a spectator to be able to watch that. Ruto was actually just communicating over his shoulder. I'm not sure if he's asking to stop clipping his heels or asking for a little bit of help in the lead pacing duties.
Well, he hasn't asked for any help before. One of the guys we haven't talked about, number 12 on the right of was on the right of that pack, Michael Cheggy, who is a 2:09 man out of Brussels. He won the Brussels Marathon in 2019. So you see any number of winners in this race in that lead pack right now. And I think that's Wilson Chevette in 5th place, who's now just sort of found his way back on the backside of that pack. He was fighting, he tried to make it a 6-man pack.
As we continue to monitor the men's elite race, let's check back in with one of our course reporters, Lauren Lister in Hollywood.
All right, hey there, we are here with Patrick Avalos. He is supporter relations for the LA Football Club, who is out here with their whole group, the 3-2-5 team. They are big fans of LA's professional soccer team, and they have runners in the race. So tell us, what brings you out here today?
Yeah, so we're here from LAFC in the 3252, and we're just here to support the Black and Gold Running Club.
What is that, for people who don't know?
So it's fans of LAFC that run together. They meet every month. They run all the way around LA. Griffith Park, Echo Park, all the time.
And today, they're running the LA Marathon, and you guys are here. So tell us what makes this group cool and unique.
They're the best fans in all of MLS, in all of world soccer. They're there for us all the time.
Oh, yeah? You guys are such good fans? Let's hear the cheer. What's the cheer?
Dale, 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 black and gold. Dale, 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 black and gold. Dale. Let's go! Dale, 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 black and gold. Dale,
quick before we go.
For me, it's the best. It's everybody in LA coming out, supporting each other, running. It's a total community event.
So much fun. Thank you for talking to us this morning. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lauren. So many communities coming together as we take a look at the women's elite field, which is down to one. And this is our presumptive champion, Margaret Yuki, who has taken the lead, and she has been alone for the last couple of miles.
It was mile 19 that Yuki finally broke Almez Negedi of Ethiopia, not with a surge by chance. It was really just the miles taking its toll, and sometimes you just have to be a patient leader and wait for that to happen, not make any definitive move, but let the race itself unfold.
You know one thing we haven't seen today? Elijah Barno and Weldon Karui going for that third title. Our two-time men's champions going for history, not in the hunt in this final 6 men.
Yeah, I've always been curious about the prime age for marathon runners. You talked, Tony, about a 20-year-old
Well, in Tashaker.
Yeah.
Well, things have changed. Times have changed.
Here.
It used to be, Darren, that track guys who then lost something off their fastball in their 30s would then move up to the marathon, right? It's like 1,500-meter guys move up to the 5,000 meters. When you slow a little bit at your prime distance, you move up in distance.
But there's a reason the three-peat hasn't been done yet, because it's very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard to pull off.
For the first time, Ruto is now not just leading, but he's fallen off the back as John Longa has gone to the front, former runner-up in this race, and pushing hard with the Ethiopian in second and Kenyans lined up behind. So the racing has really started in earnest on the men's side.
We're going to take a break in our coverage, continue with the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS. We're back in a moment.
Fatigue is heavy and relentless, but when my body is in sync with my mind, that's when magic happens. When every muscle in my body is screaming at me to stop, it's my mind that keeps me going.
Today, we stand before a historic event. No words can describe this. Earth is here, waiting to be reached. Turkish Airlines. Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS.
And the men's elite field now in a single file, led by John Langat.
John Langat, again, 3 marathons last year, had an Achilles tendon injury in January. He got second in a race, Muscat, in 2 hours 15 and 41. He then ran the Lens Marathon in Europe in May, got first place in 2 hours 10:35, and then in October in Eindhoven, he ran a 2:07:11. So that's a 3-minute personal best. And you take big chunks like that, that means I mean, you're not shaving the ice, you know. He's taking big chunks out of the PRs, and he's opening up that lead.
It looked like for a moment there they were dealing with some elevation, and now it looks like
you see how just slightly
coming down.
That beautiful slightly downhill on San Vicente. It's Wilson Chevette. I think there was Wilson Chevette. He's a 3-time Amsterdam champion, a 2:05 man in his prime, second in Boston, second last year at the Honolulu Marathon, but he's suffering. You can tell by that sway in his arms, the look on his face. He's still got running left in him, but he's not up with them. There's our longtime leader, Lonnie Ruto, who in the 22nd mile finally fell off for good. He did all the work, but when it came time, that's all he had. And now,
you think leading the pack the whole way, you think it took a lot out of him?
Sure it did. Sure it did. You'll be doing all the work. It's not just physical work, it's psychological work. Everyone else is just tucking in. They're not, I mean, they don't have to concentrate on that. So now we're down to 2. It's Langat, a 2:07 man, and the debutant from Ethiopia, the 20-year-old with a 60-minute half marathon best, who's right on his backside, and they both look good. And Teshagar, I've always said, 20 years old in Ethiopian, you talk about being bulletproof. I mean, you could just do anything. Look at his watch. A lot of times, Dina, you back time how much more time I have to run as opposed to how much time have I been running.
That is absolutely right. And when you look at that watch, you're thinking either, oh, great, I only have 4 miles to go, or oh no, do I have 4 miles left in me? So to read their facial features after looking at his watch, he actually does look really good right now.
Yeah, so that young guy, again, Ethiopians known for their speed and closing speed. And Teshagar is a sub-28, he's a 27-minute, 10,000-meter runner, a 60-minute, half-minute runner. Langat, again, started his marathon career back in 2016 in Daegu in Korea, where he got second place in 2:10. He ran 2:13 the following year, 2:14 the next year, and then down to 2:07. So he's really found himself this year, and Teshagar is basically just in his first marathon ever, and looking pretty sweet.
We just passed the 23-mile mark. Dina, I'm wondering, at this point, do you realize physically what you have left in the tank?
You do, but sometimes you're wrong, Darren. You do realize it. In the marathon, especially in these stages, you could feel great at 1 minute and then just falling apart the next. But what it looks like is happening here is that the two of them are trying to plan how to run these last 3 miles, when they're going to kick, when they're going to put in a surge, when they're going to test the other person to see if they can go with them.
Teshagar, by Yellen Teshagar and John Langat, 20-year-old, now his head canted a little bit to the right, still looks okay. You start looking for those small little signs of athletes falling apart as opposed to just being gapped.
And Langat just looked over his shoulder, a very quick glimpse, trying to be inconspicuous there, but to see if Teshagar is going to come with him or if he's fading a little.
Langat, very nice rhythm. I mean, very sewing machine rhythm. Just up and down, up and down. He's still quick on his feet. And Teshagar is just going to ride him as long as he can. It's interesting, Darren, he comes from a part of Ethiopia to the north, which is just the religious towns up in the north. Beautiful places up there. Aksum, Bahir Dar, Lalibela. If you ever want to go on a vacation and see some beautiful old, churches carved from stone thousands of years ago, you go to Lalibela in Ethiopia. This guy comes from near Aksum and Bahir Dar off Lake Tana, which is the headwaters of the Blue Nile. That's not normally where the top Ethiopian runners come from, but they got a good one in this kid.
Is this Chevette?
No, that's not Chevette. That's whoever's in third place, and I can't tell by... It could be Michael Chegi, followed by Lonnie Ruto. Let me see if it's Chegi. I think that is Michael Chegi, number 12.
Yeah. Well, they're both still within range. We're going to take a break in our coverage. and come back. We might come back with the conclusion of the men's elite race. You are watching the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS.
The search to solve our most pressing issues. How to endure, and how to be redeemed. The world is watching California, because California fights back, remembers where we're from, and defies those in our way. Los Angeles Times, the state of what's next.
Hello for mile 15 of the LA Marathon presented by ASICS, and I would say we're likely in the most beautiful city, not only in Southern California, but I say the entire country. We're in West Hollywood, and I'm here with the mayor. This is John D'Amico. John, how are you?
I am terrific. What a great day for a marathon.
The weather's perfect, the sun's coming up, and we're seeing the runners just behind you. Aside from running through this city, this is a city that a lot of people can enjoy as well for dancing, fun. Tell us what the city has to offer.
Everybody loves West Hollywood. Look, here's the Troubadour, the home of rock and roll, the Sunset Strip. There's places to hang out, there's places to have fun. And you know what? West Hollywood is also known for its exercise. So a bunch of runners in West Hollywood, that's a regular day.
A city known for its acceptance, too. This is a city that are groundbreakers. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. Everybody in West Hollywood gets to live their authentic life. No matter who you are, join the fun. Join us. Have a great day.
And also throughout today, we're going to be hearing bands. You can get some food. You can hear some great music. Talk to us about that.
That's right. All through the city, along the Sunset Strip, and down along through Santa Monica Boulevard. There's plenty going on. Everybody's having a great time.
And finally, will the mayor be running in the LA Marathon next year?
The mayor doesn't run.
Just for elections.
Yes, that's exactly right, just for elections.
Okay, his name's John D'Amico. He's the mayor of one of the most beautiful cities in the world, West Hollywood, here at mile 15. I'm Mark Mester. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Mark. And look at what we have here. By Yellen Teshagar has taken a commanding lead here. He's pushing the pace a little bit, Tony.
This, in his debut marathon, talent galore, trains with one of the best groups in all of Ethiopia. There's such a great, I mean, again, we go back to 1960, Nabibi Bikila, 1964, the first double Olympic gold medalist to come out of Ethiopia to win the Olympic marathon in Rome, and now that tradition is maintaining itself all the way into 2020 with this young 20-year-old from Aksum, Ethiopia. But Longat's not out of it yet. Look at him, he threw his bottle down, he got on his gear, he's coming right up on his backside, and now right on him and right in front. So the fight is on, Dina. This is very much like body blow to body blow, and pace is your hammer.
This is their last water bottle station. Critical calories to get them to the finish line.
Taking the noon, too. Look at this.
Teshagar also taking some sort of paste or goo. the extra calories, and let me tell you, you feel that. I've had the tradition of being at mile 23, 24, and making sure that I'm getting double the calories of my previous drinks and maybe something with a little caffeine in it, and really feel that surge. Techagar looking over his shoulder to see the wiggle room he has here to play with Langot in this final couple miles.
Were you surprised that Langot fell off a little bit, got his bottle, almost fell back to drink more assuredly, and then threw it down and then put it back in gear and rushed back up? The fact that he could rush back up on him tells me
says a lot. It really does.
He's got lots left too.
And these guys are smart to know how critical those calories are. I can't overemphasize this enough. In the general public, we can all absorb 4 to 6 ounces of carbohydrate drink every 20 minutes. So they're getting these drinks consistently on the course. Physiologically, it's been spaced out that way so that they can go the distance, so that all 27,000 people can go the distance. So they're here getting in those last calories because they know they're going to have to fight hard in this final stretch.
Look at that, Darren, 3 crosses. Crossed himself 3 times in this final mile, and see what he's got. I mean, this is very telling now. He rubbed his quads a little bit just before that. And what's impressive to me about this 20-year-old in his debut marathon, that he's got enough savvy, or he's been coached well enough to be able to take his fluids and to take his energy gel in a critical late stage of this race and still realize he has to do that.
He's obviously practiced that in training again, but he's asking God for help. Touching his quads doesn't necessarily mean he's in distress. He could be asking his legs to jump on board for this final surge to the finish line.
Yeah, shoulder to shoulder down San Vicente.
The 20-year-old Bayelen Techagar from Ethiopia battling John Langot, the Kenyan who is 27 years old.
This is a very gradual decline to the Pacific Ocean, and in a race like this that's already beating you up in the miles before, sometimes you can't necessarily enjoy that. 25 miles, 1.2 miles to go in this race. They are going to have to fight for it. The men's race in the LA Marathon always comes down to this.
No, it's a beautiful, it was almost one of the wonders of the course, the extra bonus of the course. It was the iconic Stadium to Sea course, but on top of it, it became a great race course. And look at that. He's got his mind on the heavens, but he wants to get to Santa Monica first.
It seems like Techagar is trying to push him, but Langot's staying right with him.
I mean, they both got running left in their legs. Neither one of them looks like they're falling apart. Their arms are not coming up. They're not getting stiff. They're loose. Again, a perfect day to run. You can put every ounce of energy into that atmosphere, and none of it's going to come back on you. You're not going to overheat.
And so hard to read them. Techagar has this longer stride, whereas Langot has this quicker turnover.
4:40, that 25th mile. We've seen it go as fast as 4:25 on this course, but the racing is still lying ahead. Michael Cheggy, I believe, in 3rd place, although that looks like Wilson Chevette. And now Emmanuel Techagar, once again at 2 hours, 4 minutes and 16, has gone to the front.
Does Langot have anything left to answer this move?
Techagar pushed him. Techagar got a little distance there as you look high above, about to make that turn on the ocean.
The second time he's gone to the front. Before that, we saw Langot come back on him, and it seems like he's doing it again. But oftentimes, Dina, we say the person who makes the first move is the guy that makes the last move, because he got the confidence.
Langot is within distance, but Techagar wanted a little bit more breathing room.
But if you make all these moves,
within distance.
Yeah, if you make 2 or 3 moves and you finally don't get rid of them, your confidence decreases and your opponent's goes up. But now Langot is starting to feel it. That gap is now about 5 meters. He's looking at his watch. He must have a date.
It looks like Langot is running out of steam here.
No, this looks like it's the move. This is the telling time. He's gone to his arms, opened his hands, take a look over his shoulder, pressing hard, pushing. 20 years old in his debut marathon. Almost a smile comes across his face. He's still looking up. He's not internal monitoring. He still feels good.
Yeah, and a look at his watch, a look over his shoulder. He's seeing how much real estate he has behind, how much real estate is ahead as the finish line comes into view. But it does look like he's actually enjoying this finishing stretch.
He's grabbing water. In fact, he could grab it so well, almost behind him, That's a testament. He's got plenty of power left in those legs. One of the most beautiful stretches of road in America, not just in the LA Marathon.
Longot is picking up the pace a little bit there.
Oh, Longot's trying like mad, but he's up against a young whirlwind here.
You have a faster turnover in Longot and that long stride in Tessigar. It's hard to judge that, but it does look like the gap is still opening.
Yeah, he's running. He's still pushing it. He's pressing.
A beautiful debut by Tessigar.
Yeah, this guy's going to get some big offers out of this.
And Tessigar is opening it up now, and he can smell it.
All right, 2:06:35. The course record will stand yet another year. Marcos Giannetti, a fellow Ethiopian, back in 2011, set that mark in a downpour. I mean, 2 inches of rain fell on Los Angeles that day. Today, the sun has shone. The temperature has been clement. The race has been fabulous.
It is typical that sometimes when the runners come into Santa Monica, the temperature drops a few degrees. There's a marine layer, but today the sun is shining on the spectators and the runners here in Santa Monica in perfect racing conditions.
He's going to run a very fast debut time.
By Yelen Tessigar, the 20-year-old from Ethiopia.
He's single.
We'll have Lonnie Rudo to thank for opening up the race in such an honest pace. Look at that stride.
At that. Exactly. This guy in his debut marathon, this is very impressive.
That is the stride of a champion. We talk about the LA Marathon being a place where stars are born. Well, meet by Yelen Tessigar. He is the newest star in Los Angeles. And look at him go.
I mean, he played it just to a T. I mean, there's no way to think that this was his debut marathon because tactically, energy-wise, just everything about him was just perfect.
He ran with patience until he had no more patience left. He has taken the lead and will be the winner of the 35th running of the Los Angeles Marathon presented by ASICS.
By Yelen Tessigar, and he can now see the finish line, and he is going to win the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon.
What a performance. And he put away a determined John Longot to take the title. There's Matt Turnbull, the elite athlete coordinator, who he's known from Ethiopia. Longot happy with himself, certainly, 2:08:45. In second place. He's got to be happy with that performance. And it's a very strong field here in LA.
We should add that the professional athletes were competing for a purse prize of $100,000, so a lot more than just pride on the line as they race to the finish.
That looks like Wilson Chevette, probably. Wilson Chevette, so many times on the podiums of races, and he does it again in Los Angeles. 2:09:17 unofficially for the great Wilson Chevette.
What a duel down the stretch.
Michael Chegi in fourth place. Look at all those times, sub 2:10.
We've seen this time and time again, the Ethiopians and the Kenyans, a rivalry, if you will, in this sport. And once again here today at the 2020 Los Angeles Marathon, it comes down to an Ethiopian and a Kenyan down the stretch dueling. But this young, talented 20-year-old by Yelen Tessigar is our champion.
Right. I mean, it's Dodgers, Giants, it's Red Sox, Yankees. It's those are the two greatest.
Lakers and Clippers.
Yeah. Well, that's what people are thinking coming down the stretch this year. But there's our podium finishers with their national flags. Dan Cruz.
And somewhat of an upset if you look at the history of this event. The Kenyans have always fared well here, come out on top, and to have an Ethiopian take that top position.
Not a surprise, though, with the credentials that he came in.
Surprise.
It's a surprise that he ran so tactically and well.
I'm just speaking to tradition here in Los Angeles.
Well, you know, the depth of Kenya is greater. If you look historically over the last 10, 20 years, the top 100 marathon times run in a given year, 60 will come out of Kenya, 30 will come out of Ethiopia, and the rest of the 10 will come out of Japan and Morocco, the United States, and a bunch of other countries with 1 or 2. But 90% of the top 100 times of the year come from those 2 East African nations.
And you talked about it earlier, the training's a little bit different.
Right, the Kenyans are strength-oriented athletes, and the Ethiopians will do more speed sessions per week with less volume. And look how fast he finished. He closed like a monster.
They have, all 3 of them have a lot to be proud of. What a performance.
Now, we were treated once again. Great racing here in Los Angeles. And for Bayelen Teshagar, he started crossing himself on San Vicente, and for him, it really was the city of angels today.
Wonderful.
All smiles at the finish line in Santa Monica on a beautiful, sunny LA Marathon day.
It makes you wonder what kind of response they're going to get in their respective countries, Kenya and Ethiopia. With, you know, how quickly does the news get back?
It's interesting. I mean, it's the Central Highlands of Kenya around the cities of Eldoret and Iten. As you look at Margaret Muriuki, who lives in Nairobi, but comes from Bomet County. She doesn't come from Nairobi, but lives with her husband in Nairobi. That area, a 50-mile area around the city of Eldoret, may be the greatest compilation of athletic talent in a given sport of any sport in world history. I mean, forget about Venezuela and Dominican Republic for baseball. I mean, you think they've got talent? The Kenyan runners, it's beyond that. I mean, every 3rd guy in the neighborhood's got an Olympic medal, a world championship, an LA title, Boston. There was a guy, John Cogway, 2-time New York City Marathon champion. We asked him the difference between the Boston and New York City Marathon. He says in New York, if you win New York, you will hear your name on the radio for 3 days. If you win Boston, you hear your name on the radio for 7 days.
Therein lies the difference,
There's
right?
the difference in the Kenyan world, at least. But here, you will see that going back to Ethiopia as a debutante marathon champion, young Bayelen Teshagar will certainly hear his name on the radio and be seen on television.
It was Teshagar's debut, but Margaret Muriuki leading this women's race. She has known the finish line tape breaking across her chest as the 2019 Honolulu Champion. She has been a metronome today on the streets of Los Angeles. She's still at a 2-hour, 30-minute projected finishing time. And the pace she didn't throw in any surges to break her competitors. It was the distance itself that broke them. And she looks like she has a clear shot at winning today because her stride still looks great. Mile 25, she has 1.2 miles to go, similar to where we saw the men in their showdown start just moments earlier. But she looks very comfortable at this 2:30 pace, which is close to her personal best.
And you can just see the way she's carrying herself, that she's not fatigued, she's not corrupting in form, that she's very much within herself. It's almost like a long tempo run on Sunday afternoon.
She didn't need to throw in those little teases like Langot did to test his competitor. She gets to run on her own will. She could back off the pace and run back into it when she starts to feel better. She could ride when you're out alone, you could ride the ebbs and flows of the marathon much better.
But she was the class of the field and is proving it out on the streets today.
34 years old.
We should mention again that she was a 1,500-meter runner. So any of you track stars out there being inspired today by watching these athletes compete on the streets of Los Angeles, you should certainly give it a try.
When we were talking about her at the beginning, she just looked like she had a nice bounce, a nice pep, nice energy. It seemed very easy for her, and she just outclassed her opponents this morning.
And it's what commentators like us really look for. We look for those signs. She and Teshagar really showed a lot of confidence from the very beginning in different ways.
The marathon, you tighten up in a marathon, and your stride gets shorter and shorter as the distance piles on. But look how easy she is about her shoulder swing. Those are the places you look. You look for the head starting to, change its position on the body. The small little things, the shoulders come up, the arms come up. The arms come more across your body rather than fore and aft. And none of those signs are there. She's just running. You couldn't have told the difference in mile 13 and mile 25.
she might be thinking right now that training's been much harder than this win here today. Margaret Muriuki of Kenya making that left onto Ocean Avenue, almost getting wiped out by a palm front there as she hugged the turn, running that tangent that I was talking about earlier.
She ran 2 prep races for this marathon, both cross country, the National Police Cross Country Championships, where she got 7th place. And then in the national championships in cross country, she got 11th place. But she said that was mostly just speed work. In the past, she had made the world team for Kenya, but now she's a marathon runner. She was just using those competitions to get her legs beneath her and get a little speed. She's married. She has one girl who's 4 years old named Lynn Olive Gemtai.
You know, you had mentioned, Dina, earlier in our broadcast about those compression socks that she's wearing.
Bringing the blood back to her heart so that she can pump fresh nutrients throughout her body, her working muscles much more easily.
It just keeps it also, it encases your muscles so they don't get as much shock with each stride. Second place is still Almaz Negedi from Ethiopia. So we're going to have an Ethiopian men's champion and Kenyan runner-up, and we're going to have a Kenyan women's champion and an Ethiopian runner-up.
It's so fascinating how these two countries are able to produce this much talent in this sport.
Well, you know, the traditional way of life is you walk, you know, 3, 4, 5 miles to school every day, sometimes back home for lunch and back to school. You're living at 7,000 feet altitude where there's 20% less oxygen saturation in the air, which means your cardiovascular system has to adapt to less oxygen, which there's more capillaries being built. You draw blood much more efficiently because of that high altitude. You come down to sea level, my joke is, it's like somebody hands you a 3rd lung. I mean, it's just that's so much easier. There's so much more fuel in the air. On top of which, if you win, you know, $24,000 for this race, the average annual wage in Kenya is $2,000 a year.
Well, as we saw from that overhead shot by Tim Lin, in all truth, Almaz Negedi is not that far behind.
Well,
there's not enough real estate for her to make up any time, but it is good that she kept her eyes, Negedi kept her eyes on Muriuki to not let that gap widen too much. Right now, she's on the sandstone bluffs of Palisades Park overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
She still looks good. Has she looked over her shoulder?
She hasn't looked over her shoulder. She looks composed. She looks like she might have another gear or 2 in her if she needed it, but I don't think she's going to need it today.
But we saw last year where Alicia Barno came up on, you know,
unsuspectedly,
John
almost
Career
shocked him.
with 200 meters to go, and he even tripped himself going by.
You talked about the power, and you can see the power in Margaret Muriuki as she comes down the stretch here, just comfortable, powering her way to the finish.
It makes these professionals make it look so easy. I mean, when we watch LeBron or Kawhi Leonard play basketball, it's, oh my goodness, look at that. That's impressive. These people are so efficient at what they're doing that it looks easy until you try doing it for a block yourself. They do over 26 miles, what most people can't do for a block. But they make it look so efficient that it's not as impressive as it really is.
Margaret Muriuki has led from the start, really. Out of Dodger Stadium, she took the lead with conviction and confidence, and she actually looks better now running at a slightly faster pace. You see her back kick is coming up a little bit more, and she actually looks more comfortable now than she has the entire race. She's looked comfortable before, but she looks even more comfortable at this swifter pace.
Sometimes running slower, you're less efficient and you use up more energy. You're looking for that one groove where you're right in your wheelhouse. And now it's the final stretches upon us.
The female champion of the Los Angeles Marathon.
She made it look like a walk in the park.
And here she comes, Margaret Muriuki, our 2020 Women's Elite Champion of the Los Angeles Marathon, presented by ASICS.
I mean, right on, just under, 2:29:30 or so.
That is a personal best for Margaret Muriuki here in Los Angeles.
But she's got so much more left in her.
Her future is bright, as is Teshagar on the men's side. We're going to see more of them.
2 marathons, 2 wins.
You could see the emotion, the release. New personal best.
Congratulations.
So with that said, we're going to take a break. We'll come back, introduce you to our champions.
Hi, I'm Kerrigan.
And I'm Kaylee.
And we're the founders of Sagely Naturals.